Hello and welcome along. This is the Utter Punts Super Bowl preview show. It is just around the corner. Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in New Orleans. We're going to spend the next 45 minutes or an hour talking about the game and what we think might happen. We might even touch on a couple of those outside bets that you might want to have a little go at. I've got a couple of those up my sleeve for a little bit later on. And introducing you to the cast and crew. Jim's here, so is Ollie and Dave as well. It is a full house on Utter Punts ahead of the Super Bowl. Look, let's get it out of the way early doors. Who are we all rooting for? That's not to say who's going to win, but who are we all rooting for the Super Bowl? Jim?
You can't root for the Chiefs, in my opinion, so I'm rooting for the Eagles.
Okay, Dave?
I'm rooting for the Chiefs so that McCarthy becomes everybody's saviour.
I am in for the three-peat, I think. I'd like to see it happen. Trying to avoid engaging in the ridiculousness inside a minute and 20 seconds. You've started strong, Dave. I'm going to go for the three-peat.
I'm going to go for the Chiefs because the Eagles only have one Super Bowl already, so if they lose again, the Vikings can match it in a couple of years. But also, they've already won multiple while I've been watching. I don't care about them anymore. It's not going to bother me, but if the Eagles win, it'll bother me.
We said we're going to do 45 minutes to an hour. Can we just wrap this up after about 90 seconds with this terrible logic displayed by my my co-guests?
No, I mean, we just don't care about the Chiefs.
But you care about the Eagles because they're better than you.
No, I just can't stand the Eagles.
Also, we're NFC.
It's because of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's a terrible show that I really like, but that's beside the point. The first time I mentioned it on here, I absolutely hammered it, saying it was awful, and now I think it's brilliant. But that's not the point. The point is I hate the Eagles. Get out of it, Eagles.
The main point is JJ McCarthy's only got one leg. So, yeah, we can wrap that up and just say that both of them are wrong. Well, I knew them, and I'm right.
Are you surprised at finding that you're the only one here who... Do you boys know who Sam Campbell is, the Australian comedian? Right, so there's a clip of Sam Campbell doing a bit of stand-up on Russell Howard's show, and basically he opens with, "Do you all like underdogs?" And like the whole audience is like, "Yeah, I love underdogs." And Sam Campbell goes, "Well, I hate underdogs. How dare they ruin the regime of a dynasty?" And it goes on a rant like that. If you can find that clip, it might be worth throwing in. But quite frankly, I think he's right. I'd rather there was a dynasty there until someone came along good enough to beat that dynasty. And you know, Patriots gave it us for a while. Now Tom Brady's a legend in everything he does, and Patrick Mahomes probably will be too. But I do wish the rest didn't help him to win.
I can't punch Dave in the face through the screen, so he's irritated me immeasurably within the first 3.5
minutes.
It's so easy.
I thought this was going to be one of those shows that we did where we were all on board and everybody's going to, we're going to give it our best. We're definitely going to be logical. We're going to think about things properly. We're going to analyse the game. We're going to preview it. And what's actually happened is Dave's just picking holes at Jim. He's already just scratching at that surface. Is this how it's...
He's the lucky one that gets to sit next to me for the Super Bowl game. So as I'm going to cheer on the Chiefs. The Chiefs.
I'm glad we can move you. I've just destroyed your brain, haven't I, mate?
Yeah.
Wow.
The voice of reason has lost his voice.
That was far too easy. I worry about your state of mind going into Sunday.
Is at an all-time high, to be perfectly honest. I am in kill mode. So whenever Dave mentions JJ McCarthy, it will get an immediate response and a few moments of silence as well while I recollect myself and try not to abuse him solidly for an hour.
No, I mean, you know, everyone hates greatness, and Jim already hates JJ McCarthy, so...
I like JJ McCarthy.
It's there on the table, isn't it?
Can we move on to some Super Bowl discussion? Instead of talking about, a quarterback that's never taken an NFL snap and's got one leg and is going to fail miserably next year stepping in for Sam Darnold.
Weirdly, Jim, I've been trying for 5 minutes. I don't know what's happened. For these 5 minutes of my life, I'm never getting back. Dave asked me how I was when I came on this podcast, and it took me maybe 40 seconds to answer that question, and the answer was, yeah, okay. And it took me 40 seconds to come up with that. I'm not sure. No, I am sure. Dave's a prick, and all of a sudden, I've now got to try and concentrate for a podcast. Look at him, sniggering in the corner. He knows what he's done. Right. Moving on.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, let's talk about the Super Bowl, because the way that Dan, who used to be on this podcast, who unfortunately can't be with us tonight, even though he was trying very hard, used to say, if you can't pick a winner, pick the best unit. So, who's got the best unit in the game? Is it the Chiefs' attack defense, the Eagles' attack defense?
It's the Eagles' O-line. I think they're the best unit in the entire league. But then you could turn around and say the QB, and that's Mahomes. It's such a difficult one to pick a winner on. I honestly do believe that. I think that both these teams are kind of set up to disrupt each other. The Chiefs have shown resilience throughout the season, being able to take tight games almost always. And then you've got the Eagles, who have got the most dominant O-line I think we've seen. Jordan Mailata, by the way, was speaking at a press conference about the fact that at some point they might well throw him the ball so he can rumble with it. He's a former rugby league star, so even their left tackle is potentially a run threat in this game. So all in all, I mean, when you analyse the talent on the squads, I don't think you can look past the Eagles. I think they should be favourites, apart from QB and head coach.
Which are the two most important roles in the team?
I mean, what do you think?
Like you guys say, I mean, that Eagles defense, it just swarms. It swarms teams, and you know, any regular team, I think, would not be able to cope with that. And probably any other AFC team, maybe the Bills, because Allen moves around, but we saw what the Chiefs defense did to him. So I don't know, but it's Patrick Mahomes and it's Andy Reid, and Reid's going to have a bunch of play calls on his sheet that he's been saving for the Super Bowl because he expects to get there. He probably expected the Eagles to be a contender from the NFC as well. They've already faced each other in a Super Bowl. The Chiefs won narrowly by 3 points, didn't they? Controversially at the time.
Controversy, who'd have thought?
Yeah. So, you know, I think the Eagles are going to be a threat, but I still think the Chiefs win. I think in Super Bowls, quarterback greatness prevails most of the time, apart from when Eli Manning beat Brady twice. To be honest, the better quarterback didn't win those games.
Oh, no, that's an interesting one. Could Jalen Hurts be Patrick Mahomes, Eli Manning?
Well, look, let's talk about the quarterbacks, considering that's where the conversation has gone. If Patrick Mahomes gets the ball away in 2.5 seconds or under, nobody in the league to touch him, stats-wise. Literally nobody in the league to touch him. The second he has to survey the field or extend a play, his numbers drop off a cliff. Is that how you beat the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, every defense wants to make the quarterback hold the ball in the pocket, and this is no exception. I'd point to the Tampa Bay Kansas City game Super Bowl a few years ago, the one that Brady won for the Bucs, and the Bucs had him running for his absolute life for the entire game. And it was nothing short of a massacre. I think he took about 5 or 6 sacks in that and ended up with a gimpy leg off the back of it. So, and I think that's one of the Eagles' defense's real strong suits, is their ability to bring pressure and the talent that they've got across the board. So they can rush the slot corner, they can rush the safety, they can just rush. They can do a 4-man rush. I think overall, you know, from a team perspective, you know, the teams are. There's not really a comparison talent-wise, in my opinion. The Eagles are much more talented individually than the Chiefs are, like we said, in every situation apart from Mahomes. But the coaches make Andy Reid against Nick Sirianni. There isn't a man on the planet that would take Sirianni. I think the defensive side of the ball for the Eagles is looked after with Fangio. But obviously the offensive side, that's been where they not struggled. But it depends which hurts you get in some respects. He's been playing hurt for over a month now, not practicing fully consistently. He's consistently on the injury report. So, but yeah, I mean, with Mahomes holding the ball, that's the game plan. And when the Bills beat the Chiefs earlier in the season, they made him hold the ball. And it comes back to, has he got the supporting cast around him? He's got, we spoke about it last week. He's got not a top-notch supporting cast, but they're not bad, but they're aging. So I think, if you are holding the ball, the less separation his targets are going to get. If Travis Kelce can't get separation, or DeAndre Hopkins can't get separation, then that's going to be the key to winning the game. And like I say, the Eagles' defense, it's either going to be up for the challenge or it's going to get completely diced apart. And I don't think there's any in between on this one.
Yeah,
I'd also say I'd take Steve Spagnuolo over Nick Sirianni. I mean, the best coordinator in the league, probably.
Yes and no. I mean, the way to look at that is Sirianni's the head coach, Spagnuolo's the DC.
No, I know, but what I'm saying, coaching wise, I'd rather have a guy like Spagnuolo in my building than I would, even as a coordinator, than I would Nick Sirianni.
That I can understand. Spags is a legend.
Four Super Bowls he's already got as a coordinator. He could get his fifth. Could be one of the first to get in the Hall of Fame as a coordinator. Definitely, probably deserves it if they win next week. And what he did, I mean, against the Bills as well, they did a corner blitz, I think, on a 3rd and 11 against Josh Allen in probably the most important situation in the game. It was ballsy. He called it. I'm sure he had that as the special play on his sheet, ready to do it. And he's a guy who
3 times earlier in the game, he was showing a misalignment of numbers, and every time Josh Allen was adjusting the protection to the numbers side, and he blitzed from the opposite side, he just timed it to perfection. Like, yeah, you're right, Spags is great, mate.
And to be honest, if Josh Allen was in the NFC, he'd be in the Super Bowl now because he's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. He's unlucky that he's on a team that has faced a dynasty every time they've been in the AFC Championship.
It's really interesting as well, isn't it? Because the two defensive coordinators, this is probably where the game ends up being won and lost, because you've got Steve Spagnuolo against Vic Fangio, and Fangio's had an absolutely monstrous season defensively for the Eagles too. So, I mean, as much as we're giving props to head coaches, or maybe not in Nick Sirianni's case, actually the two DCs are huge in this game, Jim.
Oh, it's, yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. This is where the game's going to be won or lost in that respect. And when I was saying earlier, to a man, the Eagles are probably more talented. There's somewhere around 6 first-round picks on the Eagles' defense, on the starting Eagles' defense. That's as a result of them having multiple firsts in a couple of the last drafts.
Who is it? Should we try and name them?
No,
you know him.
Because then you're going to show me up, and you've already annoyed me today, so I don't want to play you.
I also don't have the right answers in front of me, so there's no fair and impartial judge of this. So let's just move on.
I know 4. In fact, 5.
Isn't the Eagles linebacker? Is it Dean got injured a couple of games ago in the playoffs as well?
Harley Dean, but he's been replaced.
Harley Dean used to play for Blues, Dave.
Sorry, what's it called? Harley Dean did used to play for Blues.
I've been waiting for him to slip up.
He's been replaced by Aaron Burks, funnily enough, which is a name I shouldn't know, but I do. And yet, for some reason, Jacoby Dean. It is Jacoby Dean, right?
Yeah.
There we go. But yeah, Harley Dean, Jacoby Dean. Yeah,
close.
That could be brothers. But you got Smith, the edge rusher. You've got the two, Jalen Carter and the big guy, Devonta Campbell, is it? Who's next to him? You got was Cooper DeJean first round, or was he? Yeah. And then it'll be another cornerback, I think. The other cornerback they took last year.
Darius Slay on the other side.
It might well be, yeah. So I think was Slay a second rounder?
That's 5 or 6 first.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive.
When you look at the Chiefs have either traded away first round picks or traded down typically, and then they've got arguably the best quarterback in football. Is it arguable? I don't know. I just like saying arguably. In Patrick Mahomes, and they've spent
It's not arguable.
Yeah, quite a lot of resources in terms of free agency money and and draft capital on trying to get a good supporting cast for Mahomes, which is fair enough. It hasn't, and I think they learnt their lesson from when they had that destruction at the hands of the Bucks and decided to go out and get him an O-line, and I think that's made a massive difference. But ultimately, when you've got a left guard operating as your left tackle, and don't get me wrong, Joe Tunney's played really well this season in that position, but he's playing against arguably the best defense in football, arguably again. So yeah, it's just one of those, and I think it's really interesting, the defense. But you've got Spagnuolo against Fangio, as you said, Liam. That's an exciting matchup on that side of things. But Andy Reid calling the offense for the Chiefs has always got that X factor, as I said earlier, and it's a really interesting game, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. While we're talking about quarterbacks, and we'll get a little bit more into how we think these two will go about it, how the offenses we think will operate in opening drives and stuff, because that's really interesting. I thought I'd bring you a little bit of a game if you fancy playing along.
Yeah.
So, not Dave's game, I'll play.
It's not. This is really interesting. So we'll start with Patrick Mahomes, and I'm going to give you the over-under on passing yards, okay? And I want you to tell me whether it will be over or under, and then we're going to do the same for Jalen Hurts, and then I've also got the over-under on passing completions in the game. If you're anything like us at Utter Punts, we love the fantasy games surrounding the NFL, but sometimes they're a bit too focused on their American audiences. That's why we were blown away when the Fantasy Game Day app rolled into town, a weekly fantasy game with player values in pounds totally dedicated to the NFL's UK audience. There's insights and analysis and plenty of opportunity to compete with your friends, but the best bit, weekly cash prizes. Use code PUNTS when you sign up for a free entry after you play your first week. So the over-under for Patrick Mahomes for passing yards has been set at 251.5-ish. So that's the one we're going to use. Will Patrick Mahomes throw for more or less than 251 yards? Ollie?
More.
Thoughts as to why it'll be more?
I think, despite how good both defenses are, I think it's going to be a shootout, a bit like last time. Even with, obviously, the running game for the Eagles is stronger, so Chiefs are going to rely a bit more on Mahomes in the passing game. They have got Pacheco in the backfield who's decent, and Kareem Hunt, but overall, I think you'll get the over on that, especially in the Super Bowl.
Any advances on that, Jim?
I'd bet the under on that personally. I mean, the only thing I can see happening here is I actually completely disagree with what Ollie's just said around a shootout. I think it's going to be a really tight game. I can't see either team scoring more than 25 points, to be perfectly honest with you. So I think, like Ollie's just said, the Chiefs' backfield doesn't have the same threat as the Eagles' backfield does. So how much big plays are going to be available to Mahomes is the question, or is he going to dink and dunk 10, 15 yards down the field for the whole game? Whereas obviously with the Eagles, it's sort of the inverse of that, where big plays will probably be available because the Chiefs are going to have to stack the box. So I'm going with the under.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the over, mainly because I think that if the Chiefs don't get any offense at all and don't manage to keep some time of possession, then the Eagles are going to destroy them. In order to get that, they're not going to get it through their run game. So I think they are going to be playing dink and dunk and looking for yards after catch across the middle. I also think you're going to see Travis Kelce matched up against Cooper DeJean a lot in the slot, and if that happens, he's going to get monstered. Travis is too big, too strong for him. So, all in all, I actually expect him to get around 275 yards, something like that, and be the main focal point for their offence. We're probably only supported by about 50, 60 rushing yards, around 330 total.
I think their common sort of thought process around Mahomes is that it's going to be tight for him and it's going to be short plays, which might mean that His completions are quite high, but his yardage is quite low. We'll have to wait and see. Interestingly, I think there was only 4 pressures from the Eagles against the Commanders, and that's just not going to be enough against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It's just not going to be anywhere near what the Eagles need to stop him from making yards.
Against the Commanders, though, what I felt that the Eagles did was look to contain Daniels in the pocket, and then because they were only rushing 4 for the majority, 4 for the majority of it, they were able to just drop people back into coverage on his passing lanes and disrupt what he normally does with his quick outs. I think a similar pattern could work against Mahomes if you can keep him in the pocket and then prey on the weakness of the receivers. That's why I think that you're going to see lots of quick hits to tight ends. You might even see some of the other tight ends that they've got involved as well, if they're double covering Kelsey. It's going to be key.
I expect him to open strong with the screen game, whether it be running back screens, tight end screens, wide receiver screens. I expect him to try and take the steam out of the Eagles' defense. But at the same time, as you've said, Liam, holding the ball in the pocket is the name of the game here. So, and that's what they did to beat Daniels. But Mahomes is better than Daniels. So
flush him. It's been the case for a long while, hasn't it, with Patrick Mahomes? If you flush him out of the pocket, that is a terrible thing to do, because all of a sudden his creativity then can cut you to ribbons. You've got to keep him inside that pocket. And we've had, probably for the last 2 seasons, we've been saying that about him, and longer if if we'd had the podcast any longer than that. Just before we move on, Jalen Hurts, the line has been set at 212.5 yards. Now, for me, before I throw it over to the rest of you, producers finally turned up 6:30 in the evening. Nice of him to show his face. For me, I think to make the space for Saquon to have an impact, they're going to have to go to the passing game early to try and force Kansas City back. Otherwise, there's just not going to be enough space for Saquon to operate, which makes me think Jalen Hurts over 212 yards feels like the right way to go. Who's going to tell me I'm wrong?
I agree. I think play action is going to be huge for the Eagles in this game. To be honest, I think they'll probably try. I think they'll try and establish the run early, but I think they're going to go quite creative quite quickly and take some shots on their opening drive. It would be my view on this. So I personally would go Hurts on the over on this one, because if the Chiefs do sell out to stop Barkley on the run, then he's going to have to throw. And even if they're down, there's going to be garbage time yards to be had for Hurts on that side of things. So I think the over seems like a fairly safe bet for me, especially if the Eagles can't establish a run and are playing from behind.
I'll go over as well. I agree with that. I mean, if I said this, I said earlier that I do, even though I think both defenses are great, I said I think it'll be a shootout, and that goes for both sides. And I do think Jalen, he hasn't actually been doing bad in the playoffs passing yards wise. I think he got 300 in one of the games. So I'm going to go over on that one as well.
So I'm probably looking at it a little bit differently.
I saw your wry grin when I said somebody tell me I'm wrong, and you smiled, and you saw it as an opportunity to just be a contrary, cantankerous again.
You told me to tell you were wrong. Oh, I came up with a way. No, so the way I'm looking at it is...
opportunity like that, mate.
The way I'm looking at this is, I think the very first play of the game against the Commanders was Saquon taking it to the house, right? I would argue that you stick with what has worked for you and you wait until people stop the run before you open up the passing game, and that's when the play action can come into it. I think that what's going to be very interesting is every time Saquon Barkley sees 2 safeties back, he immediately asks for the ball. Because as far as he's concerned, there's not enough people up there. He's going to get a first down. If he can break it, he can beat the one safety on that side of the field. When it's a single high safety and there's a bit more in the box, that's when you tend to see them actually use Saquon more as a distraction. They do the run pass option for the quarterback. He goes to hand the ball off to Saquon, pulls it and runs himself. I think we're going to see that a lot in this game. I honestly think that in terms of his passing total, around 200 yards, 210 yards is about where I'd have it, which is right where the bookies have put their over-under. I get it. And I think the reason for that is potentially you're going to see Jalen Hurts pick up 100 yards on the ground. And Saquon as well, he's going to get his. I'm expecting him to run for about 125 yards. Probably go around 170 all-purpose, catching balls out of the backfield as well. And then this is something which has surprised me, but recently in the playoffs, what we have seen is many teams using a hook route for the running back, just the out and then in on a slant like that. So, I don't know, you can see my hands. They go to the right of the O-line and then cut back into the middle, catch the ball there. That has been happening a fair amount in the playoffs, and it seems to be being left open. So I think if he does go over the 210 yards, it's going to be because he's thrown a short throw to Saquon, who then takes it to the house. I think they're going to be running primarily, and they'll only actually go to the air if the Chiefs can stop the run.
Can we just take a moment to acknowledge the fact that Dave felt the need to show everybody what a hook looks like?
Some people won't know, mate, and it could have been like this.
So, I thought you were calling a timeout, mate. We're not even at break time yet. So.
But yeah, like it's literally I don't trust his yards through the air simply because of the fact that I think they will start running. I think their primary modus operandi under Kellen Moore has been the running game, and I don't really see them switching away from it unless Spagnuolo stops it. If Spagnuolo can somehow, I don't know, getting Chandler Jones into the backfield and blowing up the plays before they get started, that's when I'll go to the air.
Dave, you are the worst person with first names that I've ever met. Second names, you're great. Chris Jones.
Chandler Jones is his brother or something.
Harley Dean.
Yeah, mate.
John Jones. You know him, right?
I've got to say, when he said, I reckon I can name 4 out of the 6 first round picks in the Philadelphia defense.
But
technically you can't then, can you? Like the first one that you came out with was Harley Dean. I mean,
third choice left back at Blues.
And he was a second rounder, mate. He wasn't one of the first rounders. I mentioned him when I got his name. If we go back to that, you'll find that the ones that named were the first rounders.
Sorry, was that a curl route that you just gave us there? That
was a dig.
YMCA job.
That's a long post.
Oh, tactic struck with Dave Keane. Oh dear.
All of these hand signals are wrong.
For personal coaching sessions, if anybody struggles with basic geometric shapes, so you can run through all of.
I love
those.
this. Right, just really quickly before we move off the quarterbacks.
Here's a circle, Jim.
Before we move off the quarterbacks, this is a one-word answer from all of you. So you're going to take the over or under on pass completions. This is for Patrick Mahomes. Okay, pass completions over or under 23.5. Dave.
Over, just about 25.
Great one-word answer that was. Jim.
Over.
Ollie.
Over.
Right, the punts agree. If that's where you're going to put your money right there on the over of the completions, if you can find that market.
Money, to be honest, but
yeah, we're not altogether that confident. We've spoken about Saquon, haven't we? I don't think there's too much more to say other than it's going to be a difficult night for the Chiefs trying to stop him. Is there a weapon on the other side of the field? So in terms of Philadelphia, in terms of Kansas City, that Philadelphia are going to have to keep an eye on just as closely.
Yeah, there's a sniper nest that I've got
organised for Saquon.
The refs, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's got to be top of the list, to be honest. Just But yeah, I think the Chiefs. Look, it's more by it's death by a thousand blows sort of thing with the Chiefs. You know, they haven't got a top line wide receiver. I mean, Xavier Worthy's obviously a big weapon and got the potential to take the top off the defense at any time. But you've got Juju Smith-Schuster, you've got DeAndre Hopkins, you've got Travis Kelce, you've got Kareem Hunt who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So they've got plenty of playmakers there. They're probably just not as good man for man as what's on the Eagles from their playmaking perspective, to be honest. But when you've got a quarterback like Mahomes who can create out of nothing, then you know it's wide open. I think the Eagles have on paper got enough to contain most of the playmakers on the Chiefs side of things in terms of their backfield and their front seven. It's just a case of, like we said earlier, Andy Reid play calling. They're gonna exploit those short routes. They're going to try and get the Eagles' defense off balance. I wouldn't be surprised to see some hurry-up offense as well to try and tire the Eagles out. But ultimately, you want, like we've said, you want Mahomes holding the ball in the pocket because that takes, you know, with an aging supporting cast, separation is going to be a bit of a problem, and it takes the quality of play call from someone like Andy Reid out of the equation somewhat. So then it's down to the players making a play and Patrick Mahomes making a play, which he's perfectly capable of doing. But that's the ideal game plan, I think.
That's just done, isn't it? Yeah, no, I think.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was desperately trying not to interrupt people. Ollie looked like he was about to say something and then sort of jammed that handbrake on and decided against it. What happened there, Ol?
I had nothing to disagree with, to be honest. I agree with it all. Although what I would say, one thing I saw this week that did make me laugh. Some guy, I don't know if he's an actual reporter or if he got in somehow. It was the media day for the Super Bowl, and he went to Travis Kelce and he asked him, "What do you prefer, Travis? Taylor Swift or phantom 15-yard penalties in the playoffs?"
Did he get an answer?
He said
it wasn't a write-up.
He said, "Good question. Next, please." Which tells me it's for penalties.
Oh, it's definitely the penalties.
It's definitely the penalties.
Here at Utter Punts, we love watching the NFL with friends, and in our opinion, there's no better place to grab a bite to eat and watch the NFL than Beer Keller in Manchester. The burgers are massive, there's loads of HD screens, the wings are great, and there's a superb choice of drinks behind the bar too. Most importantly for us though, the people are brilliant, like-minded NFL fans who want to enjoy the game and have a laugh. It's definitely one of the best venues to watch your favourite team in. Look, I think we've kind of covered the big areas here that we think are going to be crucial in the game. But is there anything that people are missing out on? The reason I ask is Dallas Goedert, who, for some reason, everybody seems to be sleeping on slightly, and he's been such a massive part of what the Eagles have done. And I just wonder whether there's anything else like that.
So I agree with you about Dallas Goedert. He's suffered a little bit because he was injured this year, and Grant Calcaterra stepped up in his place. If that's right, I'm happy, but it probably ain't. But like someone with a name very similar to that stepped up and did a very, very good job at tight end. But they did use him on some key downs as well, and I think that when you look at what they actually have in terms of AJ Brown being the primary threat, who's a man who's interested in developing himself personally, as was in the press, there's actually a what do I call it? What's it bet? Prop. Yeah, thank you, Liam. Yeah, a prop bet about whether or not you see that book before kickoff on some of the bookies' websites, which is quite entertaining. I have a feeling they might make a little spiel about it. But they've got Devonta Smith, who's excellent, excellent route runner, a little bit undersized, but again, good at yards after catch. Then you've got Goddard and you've got Calcaterra, who have both proven themselves capable of catching the ball from the tight end positions. It is a daunting prospect to face this team, which is why, like, I think that so long as the Chiefs can move the ball laterally on their offense early and get those big guys in the middle, Carter and Devonta, a little bit more worn down fast, then I think that might give them a little bit more time in the pocket later in the game, and I think it is going to be needed. From the Chiefs' perspective on offense, Jim brought him up last week. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, it's going to be his first Super Bowl appearance. The guy is an absolute legend and well loved within the game. I think that he might make a little bit more of an impact. I have a feeling that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are the kind of people who are going to try and get him a touchdown in the Super Bowl, just to give him that perfect cap on his career, which I think he deserves. So yeah, there's a couple of sneaky little bets in there. If you actually take Jalen Hurts and DeAndre Carter to get a touchdown apiece, just one apiece anytime, that's 9-1, which is a bet that I'm going to have a little piece of, because the way I see the game going, with the Eagles primarily running the ball until the Chiefs can stop them, I think that Hurts is going to get himself in, and I think the Chiefs are going to go looking for Hopkins, and I think they will find him, and it could be quite interesting. I would be annoyed if they actually set it up so he can throw a touchdown pass, which he has done before in his career, which is also possible, but kind of pleased for him at the same time. They're the things I'm looking for.
I think you hit on a really good one with Dallas Goedert, Liam, in terms of he maybe doesn't get the receptions all the time. I mean, he has certain games where he'll go in spurts, but when you're a run-focused offense, the Eagles play a lot of jumbo formation with 2 tight ends or an extra offensive lineman, and I think that's where the comment, it might have been, we were referencing my letter at the left tackle from the Eagles saying, he's going to get the ball and go and get a play out of it.
He said really, it might happen today. It might happen soon. He
genuinely wouldn't surprise me, because of the amount of jumbo formation that they run. They'll still maintain the protection, and he could leak out and get something like that. So, and we've got he's an above average run blocker, which is important. So he's in on most snaps in the game. It could, if they wanted to change it up, he's more than a weapon over the middle of the field. He can run down the sideline. He can run the post. He's a good safety blanket if Hurts is feeling a bit skittish in the pocket. So I think Goddard's got a good chance. I mean, if there's an over-under on 3 receptions for him, I'd be going the over on that personally, because I do think he'll be used to try and settle Jalen Hurts down early in the game when they're changing it up from running the ball.
There's one other little thing that I think it's worth discussing, and that's Kellen Moore is going to be the New Orleans Saints head coach. We know that a lot of fan bases have felt that when their coaches have been distracted by hires elsewhere, they maybe haven't been as effective in the next game. I think a perfect swan song to Kellen Moore as the OC for the Eagles would be him trying to get someone like Mailata to run it in as almost a stamp on. Look how good.
I'm embarrassed that Dave can say Mailata better than I can. So,
I get the hard ones right.
Kellen Moore in the stadium of the team he's going to be the head coach of as well, because it is in New Orleans, isn't it?
What a way to kick it off though for him if the Eagles' offense does dominate, in front of. Obviously, it's going to be split between the Chiefs and the Eagles, but I think a quarter of the tickets go to the local community, so it'll be a really good way to ingratiate himself with the fans, and potentially show them that he can even make Derek Carr work going forward, because Jalen Hurts is not a top level quarterback in most people's eyes, and neither is Derek Carr. So I think it'd probably give the New Orleans fans some hope, and I think they probably need it after what they've been through the last few years.
How many fans are going to wear ref jerseys? Is what I'm wondering.
I would be one of them, 100%. Is there an over-under on the number of bad calls?
There will be. There will be. What the problem is defining bad calls, isn't it? That's the tricky bit. Speaking of daft bets, I thought that we could sort of finish our little Super Bowl preview with 3 ridiculous prop bets that are currently available and getting your take on all of them. Okay, So we will start with everybody's favourite. What colour will the Gatorade be that gets dumped over the head coach that wins the Super Bowl? So, I'll go orange. I think it'll be orange Gatorade that gets poured. Ollie?
When the Chiefs win, they're going to pour green Gatorade to taunt the Philadelphia Eagles.
Damn you. That was my pick.
Right, give Jim a bit of a minute to think about it. Dave, what are you going with?
Purple to represent the next QB to defeat Patrick Mahomes.
Unbelievable. We're talking about the Super Bowl between the Kansas
Do you
City
think
Chiefs
Sam Darnold's going to beat Patrick Mahomes next year?
and
Right,
Philadelphia Eagles, and somehow we're
Do you
talking
know, I
about
left
the
it
Minnesota
an open
Vikings.
goal. I left an open goal for Dan to come in and go, Lamar Jackson, Dan's fault.
Jim.
I'm going to go with red.
Okay, so red and orange are pretty close. Nobody's gone blue. I'm surprised at the lack of blue Gatorade calls there.
It's my personal favourite of all Gatorade flavours as well is the ice blue. So I'd be all over that. But I just don't think Andy Reid will appreciate getting coated in blue stickers.
Blue Gatorade. You know?
What goes best with cheeseburgers?
Or his chicken nuggies.
Yeah, look, the man's a hero, just an out-and-out hero. Next one is the result of the coin toss. And I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance here. Heads currently trails tails by 3 in Super Bowl coin tosses. So, which way are we going to go? Jim, heads or tails?
Kind of depends on what it starts on, to be fair. So I'm going to assume it's going to start on heads, and I'm going to go with heads.
Okay. Dave?
If any of the captains manage to say to the refs, tails I win, heads they lose, then I'll be very happy, man. As it is in this absolute twist of fate thing going on. Tails never fails, does it?
Yeah, tails never fails. I'm with you. Ollie?
Heads.
Okay, interesting.
Why do me and you keep agreeing on things, Ollie? It's making me quite uncomfortable.
He's just trying to pacify the irritant that Dave has been for the last 42 and a bit minutes.
One cane minus another cane just gives us the
equilibrium. Yeah. Okay, next one. This is going to be hilarious because no, I'm going to save that. So, total players with a pass attempt. So more than 2.5 players with a pass attempt is currently at plus 170, which is what, 1.7 to 1. So that means that more than Patrick Mahomes and is Jalen Hurts will have a pass attempt in this game. Are we taking it?
I would, yeah.
And is this because we think that Jalen Hurts is potentially a bit banged up?
No, I think it's because they're all going to be pulling their tricks out. And we're going to see flea flickers. We're going to see the Philly special could even be thrown in there. I mean, why wouldn't you have Jalen Hurts catch a touchdown? He's a hell of a lot more athletic than Nick Foles was, and I'd happily rely on AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, or Saquon Barkley to throw him the ball for it. So, for me, all day long they're going to be doing this. What I don't think any of these people involved in this match would do, though, would be to put the responsibility for throwing the ball on the shoulders of Jameis Winston. Jameis Williams, even that, or Jameis Winston for that matter, but that is solely reserved.
Did you see Jameis Winston throw Travis Kelce a cookie the other day, and he missed him by an absolute mile on one of them?
No, but I think that's amazing.
He threw him a W cookie, and he threw him one. He caught the first one. The second one went high and wide, and he goes, "Oh man, people are always trying to pick off my passes." So yeah, brilliant. Jameis Winston is the star of the NFL media row this week.
That's good.
Are we all having a little bit of that total players with a pass attempt being over 2.5 then? We all think that it'll be more than just the 2 quarterbacks.
I think that'll be a fake punt, and I think if as a team, if a team gets 2 scores behind, I think the other team will be looking for a spark either way. So I do think you'll see a few trick plays. We haven't seen many of them this season overall across the league. But I think if there are 2 teams that would do it outside of the Lions, I think we've probably got them playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday, to be honest.
You've also got every single chance of a quarterback getting hurt on a play. We know both of these pass rushes are ferocious, right? So even if they only come out for a series, there's every chance of one of the backup QBs.
Are we keeping track of these bets that we're making? So when we do the Super Bowl review show, we can show how clueless we really are.
The real beauty of it being a recorded medium, Jim, is that we don't need to keep track of it because it's been recorded.
Ah, I see.
Like if you go
That's
back,
why you get paid the big bucks, that is, man.
It's why Andy's here. Yeah.
if you go back to last year, for example, like I had strong feelings about that game, and like got booed, didn't I, at the live show for saying that they'd have a 10-point lead, throw it away because Carl Shanahan was a choke artist. He'd go to overtime and then the Chiefs would win.
I'm not quite sure you
days.
called it that specifically.
He did.
100% that
fuck's sake,
specifically,
don't.
mate. I even
Don't we
had.
need to cut to sponsors or something while he
Yeah.
revels in his glory?
I mean,
I've got one more.
it was literally at the point where
Can we mute him?
Calvin turned around to me and asked me if I'd seen the game before. No.
This is doing nothing to feed into that current narrative in the States that it's all rigged and that the media outlets get a script ahead of time as to what's going on.
To be fair, I did say what I
No.
thought would happen just based on Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. So yeah.
Fair enough. The final one, and this I've left it to last because this is going to be hilarious. Kendrick Lamar is playing the halftime show. So the bet is, which song will Kendrick Lamar start the halftime show with? And if you don't know any Kendrick Lamar songs, I'm looking at a couple of people here, you've got to make one up. Ollie, what's he going to lead out with?
Is it called like All of the Stars or something?
No, that's what I was going with. The one with SZA, I think that might well be something he opens up with. I can well imagine SZA will be a part of the show at some stage because she's got a couple of songs with him. Jim, what's he going to lead out with?
I'm hoping they're not like
Be
us.
careful, Jim.
Just because it's really catchy and it's got some very interesting lyrics in it, which I think in itself has the potential to cause some interesting debate. Let's just say across
Okay.
the board.
So you're going not like us. Thanks, Jim. Dave?
Who's Kendrick Lamar?
I mean, the only thing I know about him is he works at Christmas. That's the only thing I know.
So you got to make up a song name then that you think fits Kendrick Lamar. And again, I'm asking you to be careful, all right?
So they do songs. Rappers do songs. Singing.
Well, all right.
Does
Tracks.
he work
What
at Christmas
track?
or not? I thought he just worked as a rapper. Is that not true? Have I got this wrong? Okay.
Harley Dean, you have.
I don't know what to say.
The state of that dad joke, mate. The reaction that it got should tell you everything that you need to know.
I'm proud of it.
Just how everybody.
I don't know enough about rap music to name a real song, but I reckon he's a clever guy, right? So I reckon he'll go Plasma Universe Theory.
I love it. If he opens up with Plasma Universe Theory, we all know it's rigged.
Dave
Right.
is Roger Goodell. That's the big one.
We started this podcast with who we were. Did we start with who we were rooting for rather than who we thought we were going to win?
We did.
So we're now going to finish the podcast with who we think is going to win, not who we're rooting for. Jim.
Unfortunately, I think the Chiefs are going to win 24-16.
Dave, through gritted teeth.
In the words of Tom Grossi, flag Chiefs.
Okay, good. Ollie?
The Chiefs are going to win 35-28.
Nice. And I'm, although rooting for the Chiefs in the three-peat, I have a funny feeling that it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles that come out with something from this one. So we will just have to wait and see. Live show, if you're coming to the live show for Utter Punts on Sunday, we're looking forward to seeing you. It's sold out. Otherwise, we would be telling you where to get tickets from. There is no way in unless you're on the guest list, and you'd have to ask Producer Bell very nicely to be able to get involved in that. So if you are coming down to Beer Keller in Manchester, we're really looking forward to having you. Jim, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure this season, pal.
Thank you very much.
Dave, as always, a pleasure most of the time.
Okay.
Ollie, thank you, mate.
Just one thing. Kevin O'Connell going to win Coach of the Year tonight at the NFL Honours. Just wanted to mention the Vikings
there's
thing.
another little prediction for you. Ollie maybe has some inside information. You never know. This has been Utter Punts. We're looking forward to the Super Bowl. We will see you next time.